Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
This is the Patrick Riggins Show. And I wouldn't say I'm a lonely boy. Sometimes it feels like it a little bit, trying to stand on libertarian principles. But I shall continue on. I know Tori's never lonely. He's got a ball and chain.
Ball and chain.
I should have mentioned that during the whole devil woman lead in that second segment.
Christy, Patrick's saying
that's Patrick. Hey, I was at your wedding, Chris, so don't. I'm just kidding. She'll come up here with a gun.
On the all in chain.
Yeah, she's one of them Seymour gals. She'll shoot you, won't she?
She's Holston. She's right around at Holston.
Oh, well, that's East Knoxville.
Yeah.
she might know where I live.
A little bit more dangerous than Seymour.
Yeah. I am familiar with that area. All right. Real quick, one thing I often get asked is in this show, especially after this last election, is what now? Why should I keep trying when it seems like all of the country wants a free ride, or at least half do? The problem with this get my teeth working and tongue working.
Take two.
Exactly, take two. The problem with this thinking is that it's defeatist. It goes against the American spirit of never giving up the fight. Is our country worth fighting for or not? Or our principles worth defending or not? Are your children and grandchildren worth fighting for? All these things you need to keep in your mind when these thoughts start creeping up. Look, the liberals and so-called conservatives have had decades to screw things up. It isn't all going to be fixed with one election. Do you think if, let's go out on a limb and say Ron Paul had been elected, do you think all of a sudden everything would work out? Now, granted, he could correct things within the executive branch, but you can be sure Congress would be fighting him the whole way on everything else, along with lots of other groups who rely on the government for their money. It's going to take more than an election to set this country straight. It is going to take a ground-swell movement, a grassroots education movement to start turning things around. You want the bad news? Things are not going to change anytime soon. Imagine if you lived during the Revolutionary War and died before we had won. What if you had died before it was even clear if our country would survive? You died without knowing how things turned out. You died in times of uncertainty. But would you have given up the fight? No. You would have cheered on those fighting and tried to help out any way you could. That is the same situation we're in now. Let's be realistic. We are probably not going to live to see this country get back to where it needs to be, unless you're really young. And even then is doubtful. The best we can do is to start working towards that end so that others can build on our accomplishments. They'll be that much further along. Our debt burden is going to bring down our dollar, and we'll be living through that chaos. But if we're still working to get us off a fiat currency, if we're working to get back our freedom and liberty, then generations after us will be grateful for the accomplishments we make now. That is why it is so important to stick to our principles even when others say we are foolish, that nothing will ever become of our work. Well, what if they are right? Would you have rather lived according to your principles and been a good role model for your children? Or would you have rather have swayed with the wind, going whichever way the country seems to be heading, thus teaching your children, by example, to do the same? Should we not stick to our principles because or, no one's going to listen to us. We are just wasting our time. If we would just drop these principles, we would get along with everyone better. We could even take advantage of government handouts. Now, I don't like stealing, but everyone else is stealing, so I might as well go ahead and steal, right? Is that what you teach your kids? The sad fact is, a lot of parents do teach their kids that, whether intentionally or not. They might say not to steal, but turn around and accept stolen money from a fellow citizen in the form of a government check. For all the talk of the other two parties, both the Democrats and Republicans, about standing on principles, the Libertarians are the only ones really getting close to doing it. The only ones who stand on their principles, no matter what it might cost them. They don't sell out their votes. It may not be pulling much in elections, but they're living according to their firmly held beliefs. They aren't fake. They aren't going to tell you what you want to hear. They're simply telling you the truth and challenging you to accept it, just like this radio show. They want you to think about the truth and figure out for yourself how you want to live, under freedom and liberty or an increasingly tyrannical rule. If you want to know how I respond when people ask me what now, you just heard it. I've said this over and over again. Now's the time to do something. This is the week you stop watching life go by. Stop watching external events dictate your life, not just politically, but throughout your entire life. Stop letting other people determine your direction. Stop letting other people determine your mood. Stop letting other people try and discourage your dreams. There's a saying which you may have heard: those that discourage your dreams have likely abandoned theirs. These are people who don't want you achieving your goals because it points up their lack of effort in achieving theirs. And here on this radio show, we encourage you to meet all your goals. Get out there in life, and let's start getting this place turned around, getting this country turned around. Sure, the election might not have gone how you liked it, but don't let that stop you. Just let it reinvigorate you to working towards these upcoming congressional elections. All right, we're up on the end of the show. I'm sorry we had a couple of callers. I couldn't get to you because I was running my mouth and sniffling. But if you want more information about the show, you can go to Facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. Again, Facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. That's all together. Be sure and hit that like button. We're also on Twitter at @Patrick Riggins. You can also go to YouTube at youtube.com/again, Patrick Riggins Show, RIGGINS Show. You can also email us, PatrickRigginsShow@gmail.com, or you can drop us a card or letter to WNOX here at the station. Join me next Sunday afternoon when once again we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins, and we'll see you next Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Have a great week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on the Patrick Riggins Show, every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. Be there.